In this video, we're going to go through the typical workflow that happens when you deliver Power BI reports to your clients. This means from start to finish. So from getting your data from your different sources like Excel or database to sharing your reports and dashboards for your clients to use. So we're going to go through these high-level steps, and I'm also going to sprinkle in some tips to help you get started. All of that and more. So without further ado, let's get started. Hi, my name is Fernan and welcome to the Solutions Abroad YouTube channel, where I focus on teaching beginners the wonderful world that is Power BI. I upload new videos every week, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to get notified when a new one is out. So before we start, you'll actually need to prepare a few things. First, you'll need to download and install Power BI Desktop. This is essentially where you'll connect, transform and visualize your data into reports. You can download this from the Power BI website on the downloads page. I'll leave a link in the description box below. The second thing is you'll need to create a Power BI account. The account will let you have access to the Power BI service on the web, which is where you'll publish your reports and create dashboards out of them. And also, this is how you will share your reports to your clients. You can do this from app.powerbi.com. Creating an account is free, and it lets you publish your reports to the Power BI service and create dashboards out of them. However, if you want to share your reports around or to your clients, you'll need the Pro or Premium license. I'll go back to these subscriptions in a minute. Now, with the assumption that you have these two ready, let's move on to the steps. I've condensed them into 5 major steps: connect, transform, visualize, publish, and share. Now, you could argue to have more steps, but from my experience, I find that on all of my workflows, I tend to touch on these steps one way or the other. Now let's start with connect, which is all about bringing your data from wherever it is to Power BI Desktop. Power BI supports many different kinds of sources, from places like Excel or SQL databases to online services in the web like GitHub or Zendesk. You can mix and match these data and bring them all into Power BI Desktop and create reports out of them. For example, if you had sales data saved in an Excel file in your local computer, and you had some ticket information in your Zendesk online service, you can actually bring the data from these two sources together in Power BI Desktop, merge them, and try to create reports that correlate between sales and ticket timeliness. You can connect your data from Power BI Desktop by clicking the Get Data button, which gives you the list of sources that you could potentially pull from into your reports. Once you're able to connect to your data, a good tip from here would be to make sure you only pull in the data that you actually want to report on. When you load this data into your Power BI Desktop file, it actually creates a copy of your source data and imports it into the Power BI dataset. And the larger the dataset, the slower your reports become. So it's good to be mindful of your dataset size when you're importing data. Now, once you're able to connect to your data, you're able to load it straight away and create charts and graphs out of them. Or you can hit the transform data, which is actually where you will be cleaning up your data to be ready for visualization. When you hit the transform data button, it will open up a new window of what we call the Power Query Editor. Here's where you'll work with the data that you connected under the queries window and apply transformation steps on them to get them ready for visualizing. Maybe you want to rename a column or split columns or remove error columns or empty columns. Any of these actions are called steps, and they are recorded on the applied steps window, similar to how Photoshop records a history of your actions. You'll notice that as you do more transformations in your data, the applied steps window also get bigger. A great tip from here would be to keep your applied steps to a minimum. Every time you have to refresh your data in Power BI, it has to go through all the applied steps that you've created before it can load the data into the data sets. So for example, if you're renaming columns and you notice that you have multiple rename columns in your steps, try not to do those. Instead, I recommend you to do them all at once in one step at the very end of your applied steps. When you hit close and load, your data will be loaded into the data set, and you're now ready to start visualizing your data into charts and graphs. Now, this is the fun part. You'll be able to choose the type of charts that you want to bring from the Visualizations tab, drag in the fields that you want to visualize from the Fields tab, and you can customize all the visuals from the Format tab. Every visual is unique and may need different types of fields for it to work, or can be formatted in different ways. So I suggest you play around with them, they're super intuitive. Now, one thing to note from this page is the refresh from the home ribbon. Now, because you're connected to your data, wherever it is, every time your source gets updated with new data, all you have to do is click the refresh button. Power BI will automatically connect to your data, apply the transformation that you've made, and load it into the dataset automatically. From here, we've reached a point where you're able to connect to your data, clean it up, and create reports out of it. Now you want to share it to your clients or others. Well, we can do that by publishing these reports into the Power BI service. It basically just means uploading a copy of the Power BI report and the dataset that you've made in Power BI Desktop into the Power BI service. You can do this by clicking the Publish button from the home ribbon in Power BI Desktop. Just note that you'll need to have a Power BI account for this, either a free account or one of the paid ones. You can access the report you published by going to app.powerbi.com and signing in with the same account that you used to publish this. When you navigate to your workspace, you should be able to find the report and the dataset with the same name as your Power BI desktop file. So the publish uploads two files: the dataset, which contains the transformations and the data, and the report, which contains the visuals that you created. If you want to make a change to the report, you can do it here directly in the Power BI service. It lets you edit your report from here. But if you need to make changes to the dataset itself, you'll need to go back to the Power BI desktop file, make the changes there, and republish, which basically overrides the existing report and datasets in the service. If you want to update your data, you can refresh it from the Power BI desktop and publish it again to the service to overwrite the dataset. But the typical way to do it is by setting up your data refreshes to happen on the Power BI service. So the connection happens from your sources directly into the service itself. So remember that dataset file that we have on the service? If you click the ellipsis and settings, you're able to control the data source settings here. From here, you're able to configure things like refresh schedules or notification emails if something fails. If your data is coming from the web, from services like Zendesk or GitHub, you can configure the credentials here. So Power BI service can go and fetch those data from those online services automatically without having to go through the Power BI desktop route. However, if your data is in a local location, say an Excel in your local machine, we'll have to set up something called a gateway. Think of a gateway as a bridge between the Power BI service and your local machine. Setting up a gateway may take a bit too long for this video, so we'll cover it another time. But just know that you'll need to install the gateway into the local machine where your source is. And just know that your local machine needs to be on and connected to the internet in order for Power BI service to connect and refresh its datasets from there, which, as you can tell, is not exactly ideal, especially if you want your Power BI service to be seamless and autonomous. So a good tip from here would be to try and avoid on-premises sources if possible. So if you have an Excel file, for example, move it to a OneDrive instead and connect Power BI through that way. This way your data is online and the Power BI service can access this even if your local machine is not on, as long as you give it the right credentials. Now let's go to the report in the Power BI service now. Notice that when you hover over any of the visuals, you'll see a pin icon on top of the visual. This button lets you pin the visual as a tile in a Power BI dashboard. A dashboard is essentially where you're able to organize your tiles and visuals to tell a story. So imagine a report is where you're able to use functionalities like interactivity, filters, or explore your data. A dashboard is where the storytellers are able to pin and select the visuals that they want to show in order to tell a story. So for example, a dashboard could be a list of KPI reports that gives you an overview status of how your projects are doing. When your client sees a tile that interests them, they're able to just click on that tile, which directs them to the Power BI report. This gives them some context as to why that tile had that value and explore the data themselves. Finally, let's talk about how to share these dashboards and reports that you've created to your clients. The easiest way is to click Share Report reports from the Power BI reports in the service. This will let you specify who you want to share it with and what type of permissions they have when you're sharing it. You can share just the report or the dashboard and the report. It's completely up to you. Just be aware that sharing requires you and your recipient to both have at least a Power BI Pro license. Once you've shared the dashboard or report to your clients, they'll receive an email link where they can follow it, which will take them to the Power BI service. Once they sign in, they should be able to access the reports that you've shared to them. And that pretty much covers the 5 typical workflows that you'll encounter when working with Power BI. You connect to your data, wherever and whatever it is, into Power BI Desktop. You use the Power Query editor in Power BI Desktop to transform and clean your data. You then use the data that you clean to visualize them into charts and graphs. You publish your report from Power BI Desktop to the Power BI service, where you're able to create dashboards out of them, which is also where you're able to share your reports and dashboards for your clients to use. I hope this video helped you understand how it is to work with Power BI from start to finish. Give this video a like if it did. It's the best way to let me know that you enjoy this type of content. Get in touch using the social media links that I included in the description box below. And thank you so much for watching, guys. See you again on the next one.